Inflation is one of the macroeconomic issues facing Germany. This is a reference to the COVID-19 virus rise in the past 2 and 3 years. This has resulted in inflation in every country attacked, including Germany, because many parties did not anticipate the virus appearance. A persistent rise in an economy's overall price level is referred to as inflation. Inflation manifests as a decline in the buying power of money. Each unit of money may only purchase products and services in smaller quantities. The charts show inflation in the country Germany. The impact of inflation on the German economy is complex and may be both good and detrimental. Here we can observe how quickly consumer price dropped in 2016. In 2017, consumer price began to increase again just like the GDP deflator. This continued to increase until 2018 but dropped back in 2019 and continued until 2020. This was because the advance of COVID-19 and result in significant inflation throughout the nation, including in Germany. Despite dropping again in 2019 and 2020, it started to increase once again in 2021. This is perhaps because Germany's economy sector has to be rebuilt after COVID-19 collapse. When someone wants to work but is unable to find employment, they are said to be unemployed. In Germany, those who are between the age of 50 and 64 are considered to be part of the labor force. This research also looks at the unemployment that exists in Germany. The chart shows that the unemployment rate in Germany began to decline in 2017. Germany's unemployment rate has been declining steadily until 2019. Since the nation was impacted by COVID-19, it has since increased once again in 2020. However, the number of unemployed people did not just rise due to more layoffs but also to a similar level due to enterprise decreased hiring activity, which led to fewer people leaving the labor force. Although unemployment increased once again in 2020, but it started to decline again in 2021. Therefore, the purpose of the study we carried out was to learn more about the macroeconomic issue that Germany encountered during the COVID-19 epidemic. No one anticipated that the virus would have such a significant influence on the whole nation.
Background economy. So first of background economy is population. So Germany's population is expected to reach its peak of 83.9 million at the end of 2021, according to current forecast. Germany has a fertility rate of 1.59 births per woman and a mortality rate of 12.392 deaths per 1,000 individuals. Since the 1970s, the mortality rate in Germany has been greater than the birth rate. The distribution of Germans by gender is seen in this graph. The percentage of women in the population was 50.98% in 2010 and until 2021 when it will be 50.5%, that percentage will continue decline. In contrast, we see that the number of the male population in Germany increased by 49% in 2010 and up to 49.5% in 2021. Number 2 is national income. The World Bank's collection of development indicators divided from officially recognized sources states that Germany's adjusted net national income was recorded $31.940 in 2020. Actual numbers, historical statistics, estimates and predictors for Germany's adjusted net national income were obtained in July 2022 from the World Bank. Number 3 is main economic. So every time in economy give or receive products, services, income or financial assets without expecting anything in return, Current transfers are recorded in the balance of payments. Germany payments, secondary income and other sectors totaled 104,569 USD in 2021. Data are presented in current US dollars. Number 4 is national debt. So the money that Germany's federal government raised by issuing debt instrument is included in the country's total national debt. The national debt statistic for Germany also includes the obligation owed by its states and municipal governments. Germany really calls its national obligation as a public debt. During the 2008 financial crisis, the government was compelled to save several institutions. These banks are still owned by the government, which still records their obligation as part of the overall public debt of the country.
The COVID-19 epidemic occurred between 2019 and 2021, and the graph illustrates the statistic of inflation during that time. As can be seen from the data, the inflation rate for consumer prices dropped from 1.4 in 2019 to 0.5 in 2020 before rising once more to 3.1 in 2021. In addition, inflation, the GDP deflator linked series decreased from 2.0 in 2019 to 1.5 in 2020 and decreased again to 3.0 in 2021. This graph displays the extent of the COVID-19 pandemic's unemployment in Germany from 2019 to 2021. Not only has the epidemic harmed people's health, but there has also been an increase in unemployment because of the need to shut down numerous economic sectors. No matter your age, gender, or level of education, unemployment affects everyone. Due to their inability to pay employees' wages, all economic sectors that are unable to continue out their operations must terminate their staff. The World Bank reports that the German inflation rate will be at its highest in 2021 at 5.2%. It's determined by a consumer price index, which measures the annual percentage change in the cost to consumer to purchase goods and services, which may be constant or subject to change over time. Inflation, the highest GDP deflator, is in 2021 at rate of 3.0%. This inflation is measured by the annual growth rate of the implied deflator of a GDP, indicating the rate of change in prices in the economy as a whole. Next, inflation. GDP deflator linked series, the highest is in 2021 with 3.0%. This series was linked to produce a consistent time series to overcome series breakdown or overdue times to change in base year, source data, and methodology. For historical years, it might not be comparable to a number of other country accounts in the database. This rate of inflation developed as a result of the nation's economic inability to bear the escalating cost of products during the COVID-19 epidemic. People are impacted by rising goods costs and the issue of the famine in Germany when inflation persists in the nation. Many economic sector activities had to temporarily stop due to COVID-19, which resulted in this unemployment, which had an effect on both the national economy and the citizens of Germany. To stabilize their financial situation, some companies must fire staff.
I would like to share about how to overcome the problems. New coronavirus has challenges global policy making, inflation, and unemployment. However, the current coronavirus pandemic is more challenging. It includes medical, political, and economic emergency, as well as connecting every citizen with a global at-risk society. Thus, the collapse of globalization, as we know it in the spring of 2020, has exposed existing weakness in our economic political and moral norms in an era of permanent ecological crisis. Germany has managed to significantly reduce unemployment while supporting the long-term sustainability of its public finance. To improve fiscal management has served well, but it must be completed by policy that support sustainability and inclusive growth, ensuring prosperity is shared by all. For example, improving children's facility and reducing marginal tax rates on second recipient will increase full-time women's labor market participation. On the other hand, this will help narrow the gender wage gap while boosting growth and shaping most, if not all, of the decline in labor supply associated with aging. Shifting part of the tax burden from labor to real estate to consumption will support growth and further increase the supply of labor while making Germany a greener and a cleaner place. Effort to increase competition and productivity in service can also have an impact that boosts overall economic growth while lowering rising consumer price. And then to reduce unemployment in Germany, using direct control measures are one of the method uses. Direct control are imposed by governments that implicitly prohibit or restrict certain type investment or economic activity. In addition, direct government control against inflation has been organized and implemented. Then, direct control creates employment opportunities for someone who is unemployed, and the employment opportunity rates will be higher. Moreover, one of the methods is that fiscal policy engage in plans to reduce unemployment. Fiscal policy can reduce unemployment by helping to increase aggregate demand and the rate of economic growth. The government needs to pursue an expansionary fiscal policy. This involves tax cuts and increasing government for spending during the COVID-19 pandemic, geographical subsidy to encourage firms to invest in specific areas. Lastly, the government can increase taxes such as income tax and reduce spending. This improves the state budget situation and help reduce demand in the economy. Both of these policies to reduce inflation by reducing aggregate demand growth. If a country has high inflation and negative growth, then reducing aggregate demands will be more unpleasant because reducing inflation will lead to lower production and higher unemployment. Then can still reduce inflation, but it will do more damage to the economy.
So, as a conclusion, Germany's COVID-19 pandemic has become a worldwide problem that affects all the world's nations. Germany's economy was not doing very well before the pandemic compared to other developed nations, making it one of the countries with the worst effect of the problem. To handling the problem, and it is up to the individual ministers to do so. As a result, the outcomes may differ depending on the nation, and Germany needs a better economic structure that will allow them to compete with other industrialized nations.